Okay, I've got another Tournament Army Tactica for you today. I'm going to show you how to build another different type of successful Eldar army, this time a Saim-Hann army. Some of you might recognize this army because about a week ago I put up all the games from a tournament that I played with this army. This army ended up winning me best overall. I had 2 wins and 1 tie, and I guess with combined scores in other areas I got best overall. But it was a pretty successful list, and I do want to share it with you because it has some very interesting qualities. Okay, so let's just do a quick sweep over. So the general army is based around jet bikes, as you can see. So there's 3 full squads of jet bikes, Guardian jet bikes. Those are all troops, and they all have their requisite 2 shuriken cannons in each unit. As you can see, there's a shuriken cannon there, shuriken cannon there as well. And there is the Seer Council on jet bikes, which you've seen from many of my videos. I mean, I just love playing them. I spend so much time converting them that I just enjoy throwing them down on the table. They are actually a key component of the army here as well. In the meantime, everything else basically flies. There's a Falcon transport, 2 fire prisms, a squadron of 3 Vipers with star cannons, as well as some fire dragons inside the transport. Alright, so the first thing to note is I have a single HQ in here. It is my standard Farseer with Fortune, Runes of Warding, Runes of Witnessing, leading a council of 6 Guardians on, Warlocks on jet bikes. You've seen this one before, 3 Destructors, 2 Embolden, 1 Enhance Power, just to give them the most versatility possible. And as before, their job is to draw fire, be a threat, slaughter swarms with flamers, charge vehicles and destroy them, and even tie up things that they can't normally kill, like Terminators or Death Company, things like that, Knobs with the Doctor. They might not beat those units, but they will hopefully tie them up for enough combats, and we're talking 3-4 combats sometimes, that it really takes that unit out of the equation, letting the rest of your army do its dirty work. So, they're just a general all-purpose unit. They can take on just about any threat and at least be a credible threat against it. And sometimes they will just decimate your opponent if they hit the right targets. Alright, on to the bread and butter of the army, the jet bikes. There's 3 full units, as you've seen, and their speed is really unmatched in troop types, for this type of army. The key with them is they are still relatively small in numbers, so you don't really want to sacrifice them needlessly. They shouldn't be bothering to even be contesting or holding objectives until late in the game because, these guys really can't fight in melee. They really can't hold against protracted fire from things like, just even pistols and bolters and things like that. Generally, the way you play them, when there's 3 groups like this, I'll often reserve maybe 1 group just to have a sort of backup plan in case things go badly in the first few turns, that hopefully my 3rd squad of troops will show up later to contest things. And the other thing you want to do with them is you often want to be going flat out, because some turns there's just nothing to shoot at, nothing to fight, or you want to stay away from the enemy. It's okay to spend a turn going flat out if it's going to protect one of your troop squads. A quick roundup on jet bikes. Remember, they fly 12 like jump infantry, and then in the assault phase, they can move 6 inches. So they can, for instance, fly up somewhere, shoot at something 12 inches away, or 24 away if you're looking at a shuriken cannon, and then fly back 6 inches. So that's very important for positioning. It gives you a lot of mobility, gives you a lot of chance to position yourself correctly in between vehicles, around vehicles, whatever you need to. Also to jump onto objectives late game. Shuriken cannons, these are going to be your bread and butter of your actual shooting. The 12-inch range guns on these units, I don't tend to fire very often. It's just a very short range, and if you're in that range, it's kind of an all-or-nothing scenario. But the 24-inch range guns, which essentially are like a 36-inch range gun, because you can move 12, and then move back 6 inches, so put yourself 30 inches away from the enemy, are extremely useful. So you want to use those on side armor of vehicles, you want to use them on monstrous creatures, anything you can, shoot those strength 6 shots, do it. Essentially what you have is, if you add it up together, you have 2 shuriken cannons, 3 shots each, that's like 6 strength 6 shots, which is essentially kind of like if every single one of them had a single assault shot at strength 6. So it's actually not bad if all you're doing most of the game is firing your shuriken cannons. Protect your troops, avoid the enemy. Rather than taking some pot shots, I would rather just flat out away from an assault squad. in most cases, just because you can't risk getting chopped down. Alright, next up is everyone's favorite elite choice, Fire Dragons. There's 6 of them in here. There's an Exarch, and in this army I've outfitted him with both Tank Hunters and Crack Shot. Now, I'm not going to go into the finer points of Fire Dragons right now. I mean, I'm sure you know why they're useful. They all have Meltas. A very useful weapon, multi-purpose weapon, helps you take down monstrous creatures, heavy infantry, Terminators, vehicles. I mean, anything that can be blown away by strength 8 shot that ignores armor and potentially penetrates double dice against vehicles is a great target for these guys. Now, why do I give them Tank Hunters? I know a lot of people, especially on online forums and things, they talk about how useless Tank Hunters is. Why would you take it on a Fire Dragon unit? It doesn't make any sense. It's overkill, blah, blah, blah. You know, the truth of the matter is that if you're building an all-comers list, then Tank Hunters is an excellent power. And let me explain to you why. When you are playing these guys, as amazing you probably think you might be as a player, there are going to be situations where you don't get into that 6-inch range, where you can't unload exactly 6 inch. Maybe 2 guys are within 6 inches, the rest are not. You're going to get into situations where you face things that are immune to the double dice from Meltas. For instance, things like the Storm Raven or Wave Serpents in a mirror match, which ignore the Melta dice. Maybe you're going to face a Monolith. There is a growing number of things in this game that simply ignore Melta effects. And in those situations, you're going to really wish you had that +1 strength on those guns. More importantly, it allows these guys to be a huge threat against vehicles even when they're 12 inches away. You know, there's no guarantee your transport's going to stay alive forever. You have to plan for the possibility that this Falcon, which despite its holofields, might just get blown away at some point. So at that point, these guys are foot slogging on the board. They're not going to get within 6 inches of a vehicle. I mean, you know, unless your opponent is really, really just stupid. So you've got to be ready to fire at 12 inches, and that's what Tank Hunters allows you to do. Crackshot, of course, is in there because it's an amazing upgrade for 5 points. I mean, he ignores cover and he rerolls wounds against things. That's just, you know, that's a no-brainer for 5 points. All right, single fast attack entry in this army. Fast attack, here we have a Squadron of Vipers. I love squadrons. I always take vehicles in squadrons when you can. The benefits grossly outweigh the drawbacks of being in a squadron. Most importantly of all is you can take 3 vehicles for 1 slot. And on top of that, they only generate a kill point when all of them have been destroyed. If I had taken these individually as a single slot, I'm giving up 3 potential kill points to the enemy for, you know, a couple of strength 4 shots, which could blow these guys away. Take the squadron. What guns have I given these guys? I've given them star cannons. A little bit expensive, but you know, pretty valuable in the kind of tournament scene. You know, in tournaments generally you're facing really nasty things. So you're going to face the heaviest infantry people have, you're going to face the nastiest vehicles, whatever it is. These guys are just excellent at killing anything that has high armor, anything that has feel no pain, which you see more often, especially with lots of blood angels everywhere. It's just a great, great gun. Unfortunately, you only hit it on 4s, but hey, you can't have it all. The speed of these guys means that they'll be often able to fly into rear armor of maybe a Rhino late game, or they'll be able to target infantry that thought they were hidden away from view, but you'll be able to see them slightly and get some shots on them. You know, don't expect these guys to survive every game. That's not their job. Their job is to be a mobile threat. I'll often fly them flat out if they have nothing good to shoot at, just to give them that cover save. Okay. On to the first heavy support choice. I have a Falcon in this army. The Falcon is there to transport these guys. Plain and simple. It's tooled up. My standard setup for a Falcon is Holofields, Spirit Stones, Eldar missile launcher, as you can see there, and Holofields, of course. So Holofields, Spirit Stones, Eldar missile launcher. Oh, sorry, and the last thing, I haven't actually attached it, but I've attached the wrong gun there, but it is Shuriken Cannon, sorry, so that's what I'm missing. Costs you 190 points, so it's really pricey, but I find it's worth it. It's got 3 strength 8 48-inch shots, 2 of which are AP2 for all those fancy feel no pain things you see out there. The extra Shuriken Cannon on the bottom means that it stays a ranged gun platform even after these guys are unloaded. The holofields means that it's less likely to explode. It might still be wrecked, but it's much less likely to explode outright, which means these guys should be able to pop out and still be a threat with their tank hunter skill and all that kind of stuff. He's there also with holofields to be a late game contester, just to contest objectives if need be. I don't care if all of his guns are gone as long as he can still fly and contest things. And the final heavy support choices, 2 fire prisms, outfitted very cheaply, just spirit stones, so 125 points each. And why did I not give these guys hollow fields? I do sometimes give hollow fields to my fire prisms, but only when I really just have spare points left over. I don't love giving it to fire prisms because if this guy can't shoot, or if he's immobilized, or if he's dead, it's actually it doesn't really matter to me because it's all pretty much the same outcome. Hollow fields are good still on them if you want to deny kill points and if you want to have them flying around late game to try to contest objectives. But in this army, I just couldn't find the points, and it's not a huge loss on these guys because they're not transporting anything. What do you use these guys for? 9 times out of 10, you want to fire the small template, Strength 9, AP 2, and you want to fire that at heavy infantry. So, Terminators, Feel No Pain Marines, whatever kinds of heavy elite troops you find, you want to fire that small template and just blow them out of the water. Once in a while, it'll be worth it to fire the big template if you're shooting at something like Hormagaunts out in the open, or Tau warriors that don't have cover. But I find if your target has cover, it just sucks, because you're already not wounding them as often. And if they're going to get cover, I'd rather just wound them on a 1+, or a 2+ with the big template. There's not a lot of anti-tank in this army, so these guys do have to do some anti-tank duty. Not the greatest duty for Fire Prism, but in Eldar, sometimes you just got to use what you have. They will successfully blow up some vehicles. I mean, it's Strength 9 AP2. It's basically a las cannon that is, pretty likely to hit. And if it does miss, it might just hit something else. So, anti-tank duty on these 2, anti-tank duty on this guy, and massive anti-tank duty on these guys, as well as Strength 9 Witchblades on these guys. So a lot of anti-tank available in this army. But not so much ranged anti-tank. I mean, these guys are pretty much close range. These are sort of right in melee. But okay, let's talk strategy. Okay, so strategy with an army like this. You're obviously extremely mobile. Surprisingly, you're not as fragile as most Eldar armies because everything that's on a jet bike becomes toughness 4 and has a Space Marine armor save. So what that means is all these squishy little Eldar guys flying around here are suddenly Space Marine-esque in terms of their defenses, which is not bad when you think about most Space Marine armies only have about 20, 30 actual Space Marine models, and this army has that many. You're very fast. You need to use that speed. Stay away from the enemy with your jet bike squads, with your long-range vehicles, and pound them with artillery. This is definitely a shooty army first and foremost. However, you have a little bit of melee capability because the Council themselves can hold up entire legions on their own if they get a little bit lucky. And you can usually, if you can hurt your opponent as much as possible before you get into melee, sometimes these jet bikes can even hold out a little bit. I mean, they are Space Marines essentially after all, so sometimes they'll just survive. Maybe you lose one guy or not lose a guy and then just stick it out. But you don't want to rely on that. Generally speaking, deployment. You're going to want to maybe reserve one group of bikes to have a backup plan, unless you're facing, like, I don't know, some kind of army like Blood Angels that has, no long-range guns in it. In that case, just stay on the board, start pelting them right away. Often I won't reserve the vehicles. Again, it's a small army. It's outnumbered very often. You can't just hope for, piecemeal like fly-ins to happen. You definitely want to deploy the army together. You don't want to split them up too much. You want to be able to gang up multiple units, multiple vehicles on individual threats as they teleport in from deep strike or as they fly in, whatever the case may be. You want to be able to just nuke things that come anywhere near the army. Your troops should either be firing the 24-inch range shuriken cannons or jetting all out, just to give themselves cover save, protect them every turn as much as possible. Seer Council will often push forward if I know that I'm outgunned in melee, so to speak. I will push them forward and try to tie up the biggest melee unit. That might leave the Council dead in the end. However, if they buy me 3 or 4 turns of not having to worry about that melee unit, it's all worth it. Especially because the entire Council is only worth 2 kill points, and in an objective scenario, it doesn't even matter if you kill them because they're not worth anything. Alright, so, keep shooting, keep staying away from your enemy, and best of luck. I hope you guys liked this roundup of my Saim-Hann tournament army.